Alto strolled forward along the road. The bright sun shined down on his brow. His fingers danced over his lute as he moved between the rocks and turns of the mountainside. All day long, no one had been seen on the road. Strange. Oh well, that happens some days, he thought. Even in his small village, they didn't always get travelers every day. No, still, being alone was unnerving. He shifted his lute and tried strumming a cheerful tune. His song fell silent as he turned a corner and found himself face to face with bones. The last vestiges of meat and blood clung to them. Perched atop a rock above the remains was a creature, a sphinx. Light glistened off its beautiful fur. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 3 in the evening? It asked as it crouched down onto its haunches to pounce. Alto tensed up, and his mind fumbled. Welcome back to Mythical Phylogeny Adventures. I'm your guide, Jason. Today we turn to a legendary creature that I am sure you have all heard of, the Sphinx. Let's take a look at this quizzical creature and how to best it. The Sphinx has 2 origins, the better known Greek and the Egyptian variant. Or is that the other way around? The Greek variant has the body of a lion, eagle wings, and the head of a woman. Some versions speak of a serpent on its tail, but that isn't always there, while the Egyptian lacks the wings and has a male head, thus why it is called an androsphinx, as well as having some slight variations found in Asia. Additionally, there's the cryosphinx, which have a ram's head, but much less common. We'll look at this last variant at a later date. We'll focus on the main 2 today. Both are often seen in architecture as guardians of temples from India to Egypt and Europe. It has widespread appearances dating back millennia. So, let's start with the Greek variant. She appears in the tales of Oedipus, where the monster had been killing people after asking them a riddle that none could give the correct answer. Afterwards, she ate them. When Oedipus answered correct, she let him leave, but throws herself off a cliff and dies. We have the body of a female lion. That means we have a body that weighs 120 kilograms to 140 kilograms, or 260 pounds to 320 pounds, and can be up to 6 feet long or 1.8 meters. That gives us a good sized creature, and a fairly simple until we look at making it fly. Now, we know we have eagle wings. Not what species, but we know the shape and can get an idea of size. On average, an eagle has between 6 and 8 foot wingspan, and they weigh up to 18 pounds or so. They also have what are called passive soaring wing shapes. Now, I went over all the problems here on my griffin video, but that was amongst my earliest ones. Birds are heavily specialized for flight. They have an enlarged sternum called a keel to allow for increased muscle attachment for flight. We also have hollow bones to reduce body weight, a unilateral lung system which prevents mixing new and old air with every breath. You need more muscle and bones as the size of the wings goes up. Quetzalcoatl is the largest animal ever to fly. It weighed up to about 500 pounds and had a wingspan of 50 feet to 80 feet, depending on the specimen. With all the information we have, we can estimate that the Greek Sphinx will need a wingspan of at least 40 feet minimum. The different body shape will make it harder to get a perfect estimate. But even with that, it couldn't fly. It doesn't have the muscles. It'll need to be much bigger, but the front leg muscles will take up half the torso area. We need to double all the muscles in the chest and back to allow for both the wings and legs to operate. Muscles need length, width, and thickness to produce strength, and we are reducing width and thickness here. The more I look at it, I don't think the Sphinx would actually be able to fly, but maybe glide. This means you could get by with weaker muscles, an isometric hold rather than a concentric contraction and eccentric release. Yes, the Sphinx might be able to fly this way, but if it does actually fly, and we want to keep the same body proportions, we'll need to make the lungs in the thorax and chest much smaller to open up room for muscle attachments, as well as copying the other alterations that a bird needs. The Egyptian Sphinx is based off of a male lion, which can weigh up to 500 pounds or 225 kilograms, and 8 feet long or 2.1 meters. It also has a man's head, but no wings. What it looks like we have going on is called sexual dimorphism. The differences between genders. On average, in humans, men are noticeably bigger and stronger with a beard, while women have wider hips and other differences. To name a couple. We also see this in lions, where the males grow a mane. Now, having one gender grow wings, but not the other, is an extreme case on it. This isn't just reworking an organ, but a whole new ability. The closest to this would be that a woman can give birth, but men can't. But a major change in physique. Well, not seen in mammals, but in insects, yes. Ant queens have wings, but none others. So there is a precedent for it. So it is possible. What do you think? That could be why we only see females with wings, but not males. Why? In ants, it is the female which leaves and starts a new colony. So I am thinking that our female sphinx will leave her home territory and fly to a new territory where it will find a mate. Males seem to stay within their father's territory, and eventually replace their father, or has to claim its own. In this way, it would operate backwards to lions and hyenas. Yet I haven't found anything talking about them living in prides, so I don't know how large a group you could encounter. There is another issue which has begun to appear in the modern interpretation. In more modern takes, we do see winged males, a possible evolution, or two completely different species to begin with. Now, the last question is about the riddle. This shows intelligence and arrogance. Now, we can keep the human brain. So, what is with the question? A game? Or some sense of honor? This is hard to pinpoint. If it is intelligence, the Sphinx could have been bored playing with her food? Or is it a way to establish a position within a hierarchy? If the defeat means being cast out and loss of support, that could explain the suicide after having the riddle answered. Sadly, the social interactions of the Sphinx are very poorly documented. I would love to get a chance to study in the future. Sadly, they only speak in riddles. So, if you face a Sphinx, what happens? Well, it won't attack until after you have given an answer. Patience, observant, clever, and cunning. Those are traits which the Sphinx excels at. Use it against her. Sit and think. She doesn't rush you into the fight. Really think about the riddle, and when you are sure, make your best guess. If you get it right, you will win. You can keep going, but I have heard some that might ask you to reply in turn, and let the riddles become a game between you and the monster. Good luck. She'll think of many, but if it was me, I'd get it wrong. I suck at riddles, and I'll get it wrong. Oh, so wrong. When I do that, she'll pounce. Guard your throat. Having plate, gambeson, or chainmail will stop the claws, and she can't bite like a lion with a human jaw. And that is how lions usually kill, not with their much shorter and weaker claws. Her weight is much greater than a human's, and you'll struggle to lift her up. As she pounces, You can use a spear or sword to plunge it into her. Use her momentum against her. Her fur isn't tough enough to shrug off iron and steel weapons. She'll still pin you down, but she'll be dead first. On the ground, she fights like a lioness. A shield and long weapon will keep the distance. She'll need her claws to hurt you. That is her only option. But what about flight or gliding? It'll put her out of range of your blade, but there aren't any ways of her attacking with her claws. Assuming she doesn't have any magic, but I'll touch on this later. While airborne, she should be grabbing rocks and dropping them on you, assuming that she has enough flight and gliding control. But you can counter with a bow or spells of your own. Telekinesis to fling stones, fire, ice, and lightning can inflict perfect damage to the Sphinx. It can be mobile, but a shotgun approach will work best. Area of effect attacks. Now, can the Sphinx use magic? Intelligence is a key component of what it represents, so it may not be too far-fetched that Sphinx would definitely have some magic. Thus, I would assume that the possibility of fighting a mage of sorts. Now, could she have magic which compels you to answer the riddle or prevents attacking until after an answer is given? Maybe. So, I want to look at an option, not answering the riddle. Walk away. Well, the Sphinx's response depends on the storyteller. Some will let the traveler leave, while others say that she'll attack. So, it depends. But the real question is, if you could stalk the Sphinx, could you launch a surprise attack? Creep up behind it and shoot an arrow into her heart? How would it respond? Well, I think it will attack. Morals and honor be damned against a cowardly attack. That seems like the right decision here. She's smart, but not going to do something stupid when provoked. Now, what if you ask a riddle before she can ask hers? Well, I think she'll answer it before attacking. The Sphinx is an interesting foe that sadly only deserves a 3 of 10 for difficulty, one based on intelligence rather than power. Without the human brain, she would be weaker than your average lioness. No biting, only trying to rip you apart with her claws. Something that can easily be stopped. Her flight actually puts her out of position in a fight. Yet, all that is irrelevant if you can answer her riddle. If you just use your head, you'll come out on top in this battle. After defeating the Sphinx, what remains? The fur and pelt can be used in making leather and decorations. You could eat the meat, a little fatty and gamey, but edible, if you don't have morals about eating it. But you could use the leather for something more than clothing. Spellbooks and parchment made from the skin of a Sphinx can hold powerful magic, perfect for preparing high-level spells to unleash. The entrails serve well in divination, and as a spell source. There are dozens of potions that use the blood, can be used to boost intelligence, memory, and mana recovery. Oh, very useful indeed. But I'm certain you have all been wondering, could a Sphinx join a party? Work alongside you? Well, it is intelligent. That means you can reason with it, hold conversations, and make agreements. You can come to an agreement if you are clever, but would it? Most Sphinx statues are used to guard temples and important buildings. Could that mean yes? I would like to think so. They are intelligent and can understand complex issues. But to fully know, I would need a good look at their social interactions. Now, a Sphinx in your party isn't perfect. You'll constantly have to answer riddles, and you'll be lucky to get a straight answer. In battle, they'll be lacking, but might work as a scout or mage, depending on how things work out. Alto stared at the Sphinx, his eyes wide. "What is your answer?" it asked. Can you repeat the question? It looked annoyed, but repeated. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 3 in the evening? Alto strummed his lute as he thought. The musical tones stirred his memories. He had heard something like this before. That he was confident. Let me see, no, was it, oh, yes, is it a man? Yeah, that's right, a man. The Sphinx smiled and bowed her head before relaxing onto her stone perch. Now it is your turn. Right, let's see. Thus began their game of riddles, answers, and mad guesses. After an eternity, the bard ran dry of the ones he knew, and blurted out a bad one he made up on the spot. I am seen without eyes. I am heard without a sound. I can be shared without dividing. I am followed even though I never take a step. What am I? The Sphinx looked back, tilted her head, but had no answer. Defeated, she stepped aside. Nervously, Alto moved on. He glanced over his back, afraid that she would still attack, but nothing came. Not for some time. He heard the flap of wings and turned around. The Sphinx had taken to the air, folded her wings against her body, and dropped like a rock. Alto heard a loud thump, went to rush to the sound. Down in the bottom of a ditch was the Sphinx. His body was crumpled up. His neck was stuck at an odd angle, dead. Alto looked down in horror at the slain Sphinx, dead from his riddle. Gripping his lute and pressing his lips, the bard walked away in silence. He had no song for such a sad moment. The Sphinx is an interesting creature, one based in intelligence rather than power. If you are smart, you can escape the battle without even drawing your sword, but otherwise be ready to fight. Thank you for watching, adventurers. Please return next week, where we should be turning to the snake folk known as the Lamia. Until then, I'll see you on the road.